think the whole sort of world of engagement can sometimes be very confusing. We'd love you to walk away with lots of food for thought, lots of tips, lots of practical ideas that you can take back into your business. The value that we add to our clients is absolutely in the space of talent, engagement and productivity. So 64% of talent isn't reaching their potential because they're not engaged enough. Gallup have brilliantly managed to put a figure on that, which I think, you know, we're all kind of looking for figures around this, of $640 billion US in terms of productivity deficit, which is a huge problem that everybody is solving. Whether you're a huge multinational or a smaller business, everyone's focusing on the same problem. But the way that businesses currently go about solving that problem is very much on the macro. So the company-wide feel-good solutions, so the free fruit, the gym membership, the flexible working, the mindfulness courses. And actually, whilst that is really important, we conducted some of our own research where we interviewed 250 people face-to-face, and we asked them what their business could do, what was the solution for them to be fully engaged and reach their potential. 20% of the solution was macro, but 80% of the solution sat directly with their manager. And that makes complete sense, because if you think about talent productivity and talent engagement, it has to be dealt with on a micro and individualised level. We are all so different. But what that does is put a huge amount of pressure on the effectiveness and the regularity of the dialogue that takes place between a people manager and their direct reports, which is compounded by the other scary stat that 90% of people leaders don't have any natural leadership capability. And that's the gap that OpenBlend fills. So we're a piece of tech that facilitates coaching-led dialogue, and we not only do we enable it, but we also develop people managers to have that conversation about the whole person. I don't think there's ever been a more difficult time or a more challenging time for people managers to address engagement on a micro and individualised level. So we said we wanted to make this practical. So what is the solution? So there's two things that I think, and OpenBlend has proved, that need to take place. The first is that you need to enable managers to understand really what is important to the people they manage. On a micro and individualised level, what are their drivers? What motivates them? What do they like? What don't they like? So first of all is identify what is important to that person, because we're all so different. And then once you've identified it, you need to support and enable those people managers to have effective coaching-led dialogue, to be asking the right questions and supporting those people in the right way. So the solution has to come with this two-pronged approach.
And so I have been a champion in the industry for diversity of thought, which means lots of different people coming from different backgrounds. And if you look at the industry when I entered in the early 90s, it literally was run by middle-aged white men, and there was one woman who had more balls than all the blokes put together, but that essentially was the industry. So trying to champion diversity of thought means bringing in lots of people from different backgrounds, and that creates a challenge in itself, because you have lots of people coming from different cultures with different ways of working, different ways of interacting, different personalities, different ways, and it brings confrontation. It does bring confrontation, but the end result is always better. But how you keep everybody is difficult, and how you keep everyone engaged is really difficult. And we did all the things that Anna said in terms of all of those macro initiatives. We did them all, and it became initiative overload. So we know that we are in a highly competitive sector. So, you know, we give free breakfast, free fruit in meeting rooms. We do meditation classes, yoga classes. We have a bar in the agency, which is a subsidised bar. All of those areas to try and make our agency look more attractive and be more attractive for a young industry and a young audience. But we kept seeing that churn rate increase. And one of the other hats that I wear is president of our industry charity, which is NABS, which is there to basically look after the well-being of all the individuals that work in the advertising industry, to make sure that they can have successful careers and we can have successful companies in the industry. So we rely on donations from the different organisations in the industry, and we provide services to the individuals and companies in the industry. But it's as simple as making sure our managers understand their people. It sounds so bloody simple, but it really is. Having those conversations have really helped and made a difference.
5 years ago, I took the job of all jobs. I've been an NHS chief executive for about 17 years, and I'd done what I thought was some fairly heady turnarounds, but nothing like I've experienced at Morecambe Bay. And if you know anything about Morecambe Bay, it might be the stories about the deaths of children and a mother at one of my hospitals in Barrow-in-Furness, and some of the spectacular quality failures that were quite pervasive when I was asked to go in and take on the helm. And so thinking about how I wired up really good governance between the boardroom and the ward and the department was really important. Thinking about how we got really good grip on performance and a really good chain of command in every respect was really important. But the real work to do was in the System 2 field, which was about trying to work. It's a very hierarchical setup in health, and there's a lot of tribalism amongst professional groups. You know that. So trying to create coalitions and social movements for change was really where I think we had the success. And interestingly, the Care Quality Commission now are really looking at us as a case study around how we did that. We use programmes like Flourish. So we talked a lot about health and wellbeing. Bizarrely, in health, it seems crazy to me, but we really don't promote the health and wellbeing of staff. We don't use them as carriers of health and wellbeing promotional messages as much as we could. But the main reason I pushed the programme Flourish was because I wanted staff to feel great about themselves. So we used a rolling programme, again it's on the website, around moving more. No, it's really not rocket science. We bought people fitness trackers. We said let's step around the world, and we did it in 9 weeks. And staff were saying, you know, it was a feel-good factor around, I just feel better about myself. I've lost a bit of weight. I feel good. That walking club at lunchtime is fantastic. We took all the sugar out of the vending machines. We started working with some national chefs and started teaching staff how to cook and eat nutritionally better food. And that, again, really helped people. It was all about nurturing yourself. And I use a line that says, the only important line in my job description is to create the environment for every one of you to flourish. And if I do that, the research is absolutely stark that we'll get better patient outcomes. And guess what? Our mortality figures, few people are dying in our hospitals. We've got much improved infection rates. We've got better rates around, pressure area. All of these indicators, sepsis, they are all going in a downward trend, as well as all of the feedback from the staff surveys, lots of which we do in the health service, and patient satisfaction surveys are going in the right way.
So as a business, we are an expensive model, okay, because we have a lot of service. So therefore that means more partners to do that, provide that service. We have the most extraordinary set of benefits. We still have, believe it or not, a final contributory, non-contributory pension scheme after you've been in the business 5 years. So that is, that is really challenging. And so we also pay the market rate, but above that for performance. So you will literally have 2 cashiers sitting in a Waitrose shop earning different amounts because one is deemed better or more skilled and more experienced than the other. So, it's an expensive model. So you put all of that together, and we've had to, over the last kind of year, really examine ourselves very hard. The reason I'm telling you all of this is that every bit of our shops, at the moment we're looking at the organisational kind of models of all of our branches. We're also right across our head offices reorganising ourselves. So at the moment, IT, finance, personnel are literally all in the middle of kind of consultation. And a few things I just want to tell you about is about how we set about that change within our personnel function. So first of all, we talked to our partners very openly about the fact that this was going to have to happen. But what we said to them is, look, we would like you to create the model for personnel, because you are the guys that work in our business all the time. So we took a pretty brave step as the kind of senior leadership team across personnel, and we invited in about 20 partners to literally go off-site for 6 weeks and create the model. or needs to come up with some options, which we then work through with them. That model then went obviously into group consultation. So we had another group of partners who worked through group consultation. But alongside that, we created the new Personnel Pan-Partnership Personnel Forum. So this kind of level 3. And they've been brilliant, because actually what they have done is the group consultation guys have focused on the model and doing the job in terms of mitigating redundancy that they should do. This group have been feeding into us how partners are feeling. How partners are feeling right now, how is the comms landing, what could we do about that? They're also thinking about staying well and leaving well. So I'm going to create a very different culture within my team, where coaching and mentoring becomes the norm. The people who are leading the big changes of work, of course, they will be giving you feedback, and you, of course, will be getting feedback from your clients. So you are going to take all of that feedback, and then you're going to sit down with your line manager and kind of go, okay, so what does this mean for me, and how can I develop and develop myself? And what I see, I hope, is a team that actually starts to be quite fluid, that actually I want a team both within personnel, but also beyond that, where people go, actually, I want some of that, and how can I get to be part of that team?
I want now to kind of open up the floor for some discussion, and I'm sure that's provoked many questions of three very different kind of approaches, but some common themes. Just to start us off, I had a question really, which was about how do you create a sort of accountability culture in line managers for engagement, and specifically, I'm interested to hear if you set targets for engagement surveys, for example, for line managers, and then secondly, I suppose, do you link that to things like bonus schemes? Karen?
So we do an annual Speak Up survey, which is our employee survey, and we also participate in the Sunday Times Best 100 survey every year. We analyse the results in terms of engagement by department. So we then do know where we have different levels of engagement. We also overlay that in terms of churn by department and by team as well. And we then also correlate that to department training budgets as well. So there are targets within the business directors, who tend to be the ones that lead those departments. There are targets in terms of churn, and there are targets not in terms of engagement of surveys, but there's targets in terms of business wins, and also in terms of client retention. And that relates to making sure that you've got a consistent team. So although it's not specific about, I need an 82% engagement rate on this particular survey, it's linked and it's implied, and that does link through to their bonus.
Jackie, I had a question for you. You said, and I guess for everybody, but you specifically said you have to link the macro to the micro. So how do you do that?
I think it is, I don't know whether it's more or less difficult in health, but it feels quite difficult, particularly where you've got kind of dispersed services, but that need to be linked to provide good quality care. I think by probably doing some of the things that have been spoke about here, really, some of the examples that are used around some of the more traditional needs, which is really great appraisal, and again we've used kind of coaching to try and get the right skills and attributes and the people that are appraising and the leaders, but really doing everything from working at the other end of the spectrum on, the apprentices that are coming through, the students and the trainees. We have a vast number of those. So trying to work at different levels. There are natural levels, I guess, as there are in most of the sectors and industries, and there certainly is in health, but it gets much more difficult when you get to the kind of 6,000 that are working. And part of the problem in health is trying to get them, particularly at the moment where the system's so pressured, actually trying to create some space for them to do a bit of reflection, learning, development, whatever. That's probably the biggest challenge in my world.
Question over there?
There's a debate among consultants and academics whether engagement causes performance or performance causes engagement, and I think it's interesting we have a mix of panellists Can you practically answer whether one causes the other, or do you think they just sort of happen haphazardly?
Call it happiness. So we have a constitution. And principle 1 of our constitution is that the partnership exists for the happiness of its members. Okay? Not to make money, but happiness for its members, and that exists through sort of worthwhile and satisfying employment in a successful business. So clearly we have to be a successful business, we have to make money. But that's really important for us. So understanding the sort of, and that's what we're kind of checking is that we want partners to be happy at work. We want partners to look forward to coming to work, because we genuinely believe that if a partner is really loving the work, they will then give customers great service. In turn, customers will come back and spend money with us, and the more money they spend with us, the bigger our bonus and the more that we can reward partners, and so the happier they are. And so, it's this amazing circle. And that is really, really important to us. Now, if you ask me in a sense, which comes first, I'm not sure I can answer that. I just know that the two have to work really closely together.
I think on that as well, that they're systemic, but it's led with engagement. But I think going deeper than that is, because we've got the data to show that actually by having regular coaching-led conversations improves performance. So if performance is just left, and too often do we hear, well, they're never right for the business anyway. Well, actually, how much time did you invest in that person, finding out what's important to them, finding out what really is going to make them good at what they do, whether it be their state of well-being, their key drivers, or their performance. They're all intrinsically linked, and actually what needs to happen is to be having a dialogue about it, because what will make one person perform really well will be different from somebody else. So it has to it starts with engagement and making sure that you're giving that person what they need.
So you feel that